Hi, everybody. TJ here from urlaw.org. We have a very special guest today. It's a real patriot who's actually walked the walk and talks the talk, who's done some things to stand up for his rights in a way that I think that'd be a great example for all of you to pay very close attention to. So I hope you're taking notes here because this is a very real thing that happened recently. And our guest is Michael Clevenger. He works at Stuffy's Restaurant here in Washington. And their story made national news in terms of their standing up to the government and the governor and what they're trying to do to remove the right to live your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is just to run your business without interference if you're not doing any harm. And that's a big, you guys all know our theme is the first thing we try to have people do is say, somebody wants to challenge you on something, you say, okay, fine, prove it. And it starts there. The burden of proof is on the accuser. So, Michael, I'd like you just maybe, if you could, give us a little background on your quick bio and what's going on, and then we'll get into your story.
Sure. So, Michael Clevenger. I live in Longview, Washington all my life. I've worked at Stuffy's too. In Longview. It's like a 50s style diner, pretty big place. But I've worked there for 21 years since I was 17. Kind of going to be a summer job, and it's been, the longest summer of my life. But they've really treated me great. They're really like adopted parents to me. So we went ahead and ultimately opened up against the governor's wishes, but.
So you have no legal background, special legal training.
I went to college for a year to be a welder, and that was it. So.
All right. Well, I hope you fired it up on these guys. Okay. Well, let me ask you a few questions so you can kind of lay out your story. What happened? And so, essentially, what did happen at Stuffy's? What came?
We'll kind of just go through the timeline. So we suffered like every other business in Washington suffered during the first lockdown. We did what we could, kind of doing our part. Washingtonians are great citizens. Like, we're good people. And, we were waiting, preparing, and doing what we could and bending and flexing. And we made it through the first lockdown barely. And then the second lockdown, it was just financially devastating. We were going to lose their business. They've been in business 32 years. So December 6th, they decided to reopen for indoor dining against the governor's wishes. And
let me pause you right there. So had there been any instances reported of somebody getting COVID or any other sickness from your restaurant?
We still have 0 cases of employees or customers linked to us.
So there's nobody, if you said, okay, prove it, they can't prove anything. Okay, go ahead.
So we opened December 6th. We had a lot of, I'll go through that later, but I'll just kind of go through the timeline of the case. So they gave us contacted us and we're like, oh, you need to close for indoor dining. You have to comply with the governor's orders. And we said, no, we won't. So on December 28th, 2020, they filed a complaint without a summons with our Cowles County Superior Court. And then Brian Dew, so this is the Attorney General representing L&I, because the Attorney General's office is like the state's legal team. So they brought this against us.
L&I is Labor and Industries, is that correct?
Department of Labor and Industries, yeah. They're the insurance company of all employees in Washington State that you're required to have. So that on the 28th, the day they filed, Brian Dew, who's an assistant attorney general, he's the attorney for this case on the AG's side. He called us. He called Stuffy's to let us know that the next day we would be being served some paperwork, and we weren't really sure what it was. So the next day, the 29th, we get served a massive stack of pleadings. And these pleadings, we don't know anything about law, so we went through them, and we got a temporary restraining order in there, but it was blank. And so we kind of went through that, and I was kind of curious because of the temporary restraining order was blank. We were curious why it was blank. And so I decided to go online and, check the Superior Court record to see kind of what was on the record or whatever. And there was nothing, not a single thing online this has ever been in the court, but we've already gotten this as if they've filed it. So then I decide, well, maybe the case number, I'm typing it in wrong. So I'm going to look for Stuffy's name. So Stuffy's name brings up the case. That entire initial pleadings, they put the entire wrong case number on every page of that pleading. So we couldn't find the information because the entire pleading had the wrong case number. And on that day, I found out that January 7th, 2021, we had already had a motion, a hearing scheduled to show the cause for the temporary restraining order, TRO. And none of that was in the pleadings, nothing. The pleadings were just a joke. They were a mess, complete mess. I mean, Spiffy's is another restaurant in Longview that L&I has been, abusing. They interchanged Spiffy's and Stuffy's throughout the pleading several times. All of the declarations they submitted as if they were facts were nothing more than, various insiders of Jay Inslee's inner circle testifying to the fact of COVID is a pandemic and highly contagious, and restaurants contributed to the spread of that. And then another set of declarations.
Without any evidence whatsoever.
No evidence.
And their evidence, even what they were trying to create, was really fabricated then.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mischaracterizing. They have no firsthand knowledge. They couldn't even be a witness in a trial.
Yeah.
They don't have any firsthand knowledge. They wouldn't even qualify as a witness, but they're able to put this stuff in pleadings and accuse you guys of something that, number one, didn't even apply to you, possibly applied to a second party, probably couldn't provide any proof that there is a spread being caused by what you're doing or by anybody else. Yet they put all this into a pleading and threatened you with is what they did. It was just threatening you.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I think I briefly mentioned that there was no summons served. And I believe it's, forgot which court rule it is, but there's a court rule requirement in order to commence a court hearing, you must serve a complaint together with a summons. And that not only begins your case, but it also allows the judge to have personal jurisdiction over you.
Right.
That was never served. It was never created. They still to this day don't really think they need to do that.
But why worry about the law? I mean, come on, we got the code.
Well, then, so then, the TRO, we go. I researched and was like, oh, CR 65, Court Rule 65 pertains to temporary restraining orders, and how they were able to file this, emergency, no notice, ex parte, which means basically we weren't allowed to even be involved in it because it's such a great emergency that it's like someone's driving a bulldozer through your house.
Mm-hmm.
Where ultimately in over 2 months we were, illegally open. We had zero liability to L&I. But yeah, so I just checked CR 65 out, and then blah, blah, blah.
So you actually read the papers, saw obvious problems.
Massive problems.
Now, did you contact an attorney, or you were just at this point just inquiring yourself?
I was inquiring myself. We had an attorney, the same attorney that Spiffy's and Farm Boy used. He's from the Freedom Foundation. So we got a hold of him, and he's like, yeah, okay, I can't do anything about it right now. I'm too busy, but when they give you a court date, I'll get set up for it, whatever. So I found out that day that we had the court date, but we still didn't have any official notice of it or anything. And then so on Monday, January 4th, we got served. Well, we didn't get served. They served a waitress the conformed, filled out, stamped temporary restraining order, which had the court date of the 4th or the 7th. Which that right there is another CR 65 violation. Personal service is required. A waitress is not a member of Stuffy's LLC.
Yeah, that's the rules.
Yeah, so they still that came up again, but we found just massive amounts of errors to the whole thing. I mean, they broke like 4 different court rules. They submitted hearsay and just massive amount of errors. So we after the 4th, we again got a hold of this Selsky, who was supposed to be our attorney, and he said, "There's no way I can get on." They served us like 1 o'clock, improperly served us at 1 o'clock on the 4th to tell us that our court hearing was the 7th. So between the afternoon of the 4th and the 7th, since our attorney said he couldn't show up, and he said, just go to court, ask for a continuance. Between the 4th and the 7th, we got Sky, who is Bud and Glinda's granddaughter, set up as a governor in the LLC. And we were able to draft a motion of continuance and a motion of quash to quash the TRO because of all the blatant violations, the lack of personal service. There was no expiration date on the TRO. There was never a summons served. Just go on and on, the improper case numbers. So we showed up in court and argued that. I didn't show up in court, but she showed up in court.
Okay.
And argued that. And then L&I's attorney said, you can't argue this. You can't argue anything. You're an LLC. You must have an attorney represent you.
That's
so they granted our continuance. And then in 2 weeks, on the 21st, our attorney Selsky was able to show up in court, and we told him, argue the quash. This is a clear cut and dry quash. There is no temporary restraining order. It was never served, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All I did was ask for continuance, and then we had another hearing on the 4th, and that's again, we were still pushing for him to argue this quash motion that we haven't, had a chance to argue yet, because we wrote it and we were pretty proud of it, and we didn't really get the chance to because our Judge Basher, he just berated the Attorney General's office for about 5 minutes and asked them, I don't have jurisdiction. Where is the summons? This was never personally served, and it was just on the Attorney General's office part was just excuse and lie and excuse and lie. And the judge was calling him out, and the judge was laughing at them. And he said, it doesn't mean that, that. And they were basically trying to say that they're the WAC that L&I illegally created and a few other RCWs pretty much granted the court jurisdiction.
Yeah, they'll say the law grants jurisdiction. No, there's procedures that grant jurisdiction. It's not the law, it's the procedures.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's the overview of kind of what went down.
All right. So kind of how did this, so you started getting some publicity. What started happening there? I mean, was something going on that people were showing up and supporting you guys?
I kind of got hold of some people, and, we really felt, and we know that we were being abused by the state, just like every other business that they've done this to. Every other restaurant that they fined for, violating Jay Inslee's suggestions has been $9,000 a day. And that wasn't quite scary enough. So they decided to up it to $18,000 a day for us.
Which is completely invalid. There's no contract giving them that authority. Nothing. Did you ever come up with the idea of starting to bill them triple for fraud? At the same rate?
That'll come out here in a little bit in our next questions, but that's the trouble with finding an attorney that
they won't do that.
Yeah, because
no offense to attorneys out there, but you guys don't have the cojones to actually do what the law allows you to do, which is to file a counterclaim.
Oh no, I wanted counterclaims and sanctions against them.
Yep.
And I mean, $18,000 a day against them sounds fair.
You don't get what you don't ask for.
Yeah. So we got hold of some people, and a couple of us got together, and we started organizing these rallies to meet at the courthouse just peacefully.
You weren't graffitiing, spray painting, burning things, shooting smoke rockets. Well, who are those people doing that? I thought it was all you white guys doing that.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, we had
the media lives.
We had a great rally, and we listened to the court hearing live, and it was a lot of fun. And then we ended up having one for each of the other all three of the hearings we had, and we did get a lot of news coverage, a lot of a lot of slander and
Yeah, oh yeah, I saw a lot of it. It was
yeah,
amazing with the stuff they were writing, and just, you know, you're just a bunch of rednecks, white supremacists. Has nothing
yeah,
to do with the fact the governor was trying to intimidate you,
yeah,
using every illegal tactic, doing it poorly. They weren't even good at it,
yeah.
but
All,
most
all,
people will bow down. You know.
all on every Washingtonian's dime. I mean, we paid for every ounce of abuse that we got. We paid for all of
Absolutely. Plus the business you lost along the way. But it seems to me like that kind of actually is backfiring now, isn't it? You guys got some
it.
good
Yeah,
publicity.
we've been hammered, and you know, we're open full capacity now, and we're uh, we're not bowing to the state and their violations of us at all.
Yeah.
Not in one way.
Yeah. Well, see, what people don't understand is it's, you know, Jesus, when he asked, who do we pay the tax to, you know, and then he showed him the image of Caesar. He says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's, paraphrasing. And to me, that means we are the ones with the choice who we bow down to.
Yeah,
And if we don't choose the proper master, we get the master we choose. And in this case, people think the governors have all this power. Uh, and actually, they don't. When you actually call them out and show that they're violating the law
yeah,
to harm people, all
yeah,
for what? To increase their power, to
yeah,
prove they have some power. The people, listen, it's, as it says in the Constitution, they only rule by consent of the governed.
yeah,
End
yeah.
of story. Anybody doesn't understand that needs to go read a little bit if you still have the ability after the public school indoctrination and pain they've given you.
Yeah,
Go read it. It tells
yeah,
you how things work. And it's not, we want them to provide good service and do good quality service and not to abuse us. We don't need bailout programs.
no,
We need just to be left alone. If we're causing a harm, if we're causing a danger, that's different.
yeah,
There's no evidence of all harm. And that's the simple way law works. And there's a health issue, sure,
yeah,
but you should isolate the people that are at high risk like they do every other illness.
hmm,
Not the way they've done this, where they came after the small businesses. And in my opinion, essentially to install a greater level of Marxism on society, get
oh,
us used to
absolutely,
being servants. And we're not. And as long as people keep keep that knowledge of freedom, they'll have it. And you guys stood up and did it. So let's see. Um, so, you know, at this point, are you facing other obstacles as far as this case goes, or what did it kind of conclude at this point?
Well, the last hearing I was telling you about, where the judge just kind of held the attorney general's office to the fire. At the end of the hearing, he said it would be in everyone's best interest if you guys would just work this out outside of court.
As always, and
Yeah,
it should be
yeah.
that way.
The judge just he didn't want his hands in it at all, but he did really good and upheld the law and stuck to his guns and everything. So after that, the negotiation started from the AG's office, and it was at that time, right after that, the governor announced that 25% is suddenly safe.
Yeah, suddenly it's just
Yeah,
discovered magic wand.
yeah, I said it, so now it's safe. So we were, you know, we were always, you know, 50+% capacity, so we still were, you know,
And
going
no
against
evidence of anybody walking out and blood
nothing,
curdling out their lungs from COVID or something like
nothing.
that. Some crazy stories that they try to publish. Okay.
Oh yeah, and that's really what got me involved in this more than anything, was just the abuse. But
Yeah.
um, one of my best friends that I worked with at Stuffy's for years, he worked there, I think I worked with him 16, 17 years. But I wasn't even a week into the first lockdown, and he relapsed and overdosed and died. And, you know,
Perfect. So you have a firsthand story of somebody who was affected by COVID because
yeah,
of the lockdowns.
yeah, from the lockdowns.
Yep.
And it was gutting, you know.
Oh, I know. It's horrible. I know a lot of people too. I hear, because I have a pretty broad reach. I hear stories all the time of the psychological damage that this is having on people.
Yeah,
You know, people got their little kids walking down the street with a mask on all by himself. That kid is being messed up,
yeah,
and people should be ashamed of doing that to their kids. And I know medical professionals that will tell you that they don't want to say it publicly. This
yeah,
is 3 different medical professionals. They are totally against putting these germ infested things on your face all the time.
Yeah.
And that's far more risky than you'll ever get from especially a kid or young people from COVID. They should do nothing except hope they get it and get over it. And then they got their immunity.
Absolutely.
And instead of this whole crazy way they did it, like going after businesses like yours and try to make an example of Stuffies, when reality is they even have to break the law to do that. That's how little law they have on their side. I know another attorney, Angus Lee. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah, and he's actually, I consider him to be one of the good guys. He's really been out there. He's been on several national programs as well, talking about what cities can do. Like he's talked to the city of Portland, which has just been destroyed. Literally, it was the most beautiful city in the country, and now it's maybe one of the ugliest in less than a year, because they chose to let it happen. It was really totally that, and shutting down businesses, and then letting the tyranny run the streets, and then blaming other people for it. They always blame other people, and other than themselves.
Well, I don't know about Oregon, but I know in Washington, that's actually something that Jay Inslee is empowered to do with the RCW 4306-220, is he's empowered to stop riots and unrest in the street, and did nothing. Instead, he twisted it and manipulated it to be some kind of a business enforcement tool. It was just insane.
Well, you have to understand that the governors, these West Coast governors, the left coast governors, are all tyrannists. They're all globalists. They all want to have absolute power. They're little dictators, and they've used this as a tool, as an opportunity. As bad as it is, I mean, COVID's not a good thing, but they overstated and overused it to gain more power. And another way they gain power is to you got to take small business out of the equation to give, because that's where people get freedom, and to force them back into government dependency, which is exactly what they're doing. The more they give it, the more people become that. So, and then they forget about their rights. They don't try to protect their rights. They figure, well, they did me a favor, so I should just do what they say. And it's what the Roman Empire did near the end of its empire, which was cakes and circuses. They started giving people entertainment and free stuff to keep them from rioting, and then keep them fighting each other. Oh, gee, that doesn't sound familiar, does it? There's no left or right. There's only right or wrong in this. And you can clearly see what right and wrong is. And they're letting these groups run the streets. They don't prosecute certain groups, but they'll prosecute one guy from another group and say, look, they're all white supremacists, for example. They've overstated that thing, and it's all racists doing this. No, it's the governor and their ineptitude and the attorney generals who won't enforce the law fairly and equitably. It has to be fair and equitable. There is an element of that has to be done. But see, again, they take a little thing and they blow it up, and then they use businesses like Stuffies as a way to try to make their point, but it blew up in their face. That's what's great about this. Because you guys were paying attention. You can read, and the old saying. Somebody handed me again. I wish I had a copy, but he just gave it to me a while ago. The statement by Benjamin Franklin. For those who are willing to give up freedom for security, deserve neither. Because security is not a guarantee in this world. We're living on a rock flying around in space, going through millions of other rocks every 2 seconds. Anything could happen at any time. We don't get security, and the government sure as heck doesn't give it to us. We get it through accomplishment and through growing something, through building a business, through having some positive impact on other people. And Stuffies has been around forever, serving people. People love it. Nobody's complained. There has to be a complaint for there to be a crime. And there's nobody complaining. It's just somebody made something up on a piece of paper and threw it at you. And they're using it to try to make an example for other businesses to be intimidated by their power when they have no power. I don't care if you even have a license from them. That's a voluntary act. You can get rid of that too. And you still have a right to the First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. All these things still exist, regardless of what a local rule does.
It's wrong on every level.
Yes.
And then even if you don't agree with everything we've talked about, the Constitution, him manipulating his power, the emergency proclamations can't do what he's doing with them. You go through all that. You don't believe any of that? What about due process? You know, that doesn't apply in emergencies because they say it doesn't. Like, that's insane. You know, the Constitution doesn't apply because they say it doesn't.
Right.
That's what I
No,
don't get.
there's no COVID-19 clause in the Constitution. Did you know
Not,
that?
not one. I've read it. Yeah.
It's not that. It's very simple.
It's not that long. Read it.
And people think that you can just make stuff. This is people that don't believe that rule of law matters. Rule of law is all we have that keeps us from becoming complete anarchy. And if we don't have a foundation, we don't have a house. And you don't get to make up the rules and change the rules of gravity, for example, because you want to. There are things that work fairly and equitably for everyone. And then there are things that don't.
Yeah.
And government's job is only to stay out of the way unless I'm doing a harm. That is their only job. And they've gone way beyond that to empower themselves. And the only way to beat them, and I'm convinced this is why we have our website, yourlaw.org. The reason we have it is to teach people that you have to be the law. You are the controllers of this.
Yeah.
But you have to read. You have to do the work. You got to turn off the programming that's being put in your head all the time, and the television programming. There's a reason they call it programming.
Yeah.
Is it's programming you to be dumb and stupid and dependent rather than independent and free. It's not, you don't get it both ways.
Yeah.
And so you guys did a great job of standing up to them. And, we're going to continue to expose these kind of things, just like what they've done with you guys. And by the way, where's the status on this fine, or where are they at? Did they actually drop this, or what sort of?
So I think I actually cut away from what I was talking about on
I think you did.
I got rabbit trailed, but that hearing where they were just berating the judge was berating the AG's office. So after that, they were negotiating, and they said, all right, now that the state's open 25%, if you guys go down to 25%, we'll drop everything. And we said, absolutely not. We're not complying. In fact, we're opening to 100% on the 27th. So they got back a hold of us again, and they said, okay, well, we're going to dismiss everything and just hope that you comply. And we said, again, we're not complying in any way. So they dismissed the case. The fines, we still have the fines. Grand total, they charged us $8,000 for the pleasure of dismissing our case, which was fraudulent and illegal and abusive and wrong.
Yeah.
And then I believe the total on the fines and that $8,000 combined was $945,000, almost $1 million. And actually, Bud, my boss Bud, was pissed because he was really hoping that it would hit $1 million.
Because that way he can collect $3 million, because fraud is a triple damage claim.
Well, that's the best of this whole thing is Bud and Glenda, they're in their 70s, and they are absolutely fearless. Glenda said, I hope it comes to be going to jail. It's on my bucket list to go to jail. And they still, we were.
Hey, at least you get to eat some of that food and take back some of that,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The media was going off, on us all the time about, that we're the COVID palace and we're killing, we're going to kill all of Longview and this and that.
Yep, they all died.
And it was a joke. It was an absolute just slanderous joke. And people thought we're in there just having panic attacks because we're so nervous. And we were in there, laughing. Oh, there's another $180,000 in fines. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Show us the law, show us the contract, sue us in court, and then there's your opportunity to collapse that and hit them with a counterclaim for triple damages.
Yeah, we have Joel Ard is our attorney now.
Okay.
And he's handling the appeals process. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to keep bumping that out as long as they can. And then they're going to kind of be like, oh, let's just settle this for, whatever, $100,000. And we'll say, absolutely not. We'll settle for $0.
No, we'll settle for triple damages.
Ultimately, that's what needs to happen.
Until you go on offense and listen, it's like playing football. If the defense shows up for the Super Bowl, the other team wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to bring some offense. And
yeah.
I'm going to tell you, maybe we'll talk about this offline, but you need to get a proof of claim going, called a proof of claim, given proper notice, and let them know if they don't prove the claim, then they're making a fraudulent claim, and fraud entitles you to triple damages. And then you just move that forward. The attorneys don't like to do this because it upsets their little court game. And I'm sure you've got a good attorney. I'm just really saying his hands are tied, but you can do it.
Absolutely. Oh, we can do that without an attorney, even though we're an LLC.
You need to do without an attorney because the claim, I mean, it's really this, they're making a false claim against an entity. Now, maybe he'll sign off on what you tell him to do, but the reality is you got to give him a proper notice too. It's harder when you're an entity, that's true, but
Yeah.
you still need to create it and say, we're filing this, you file it. And he's going to say, well, just my kind of hands off. It says, okay, but we got an attorney. That's fine. You just enforce the document and see, because if you don't, yeah, that's the hard part is you got to get a counterclaim going. They got to prove a claim that they have any standing to make such a claim. They got to prove it. They don't have any documents that say they have that authority.
Well, that's actually funny you said that, because I don't know if it's kind of related, but just doing some digging for the case and stuff, I went on LNI's website because I wanted to find more information about all this this alleged damages that's being inflicted, this liability that's being inflicted on LNI. So I was able to find their COVID data, and so for the entire year of 2020, in the accommodation and food service industries, they only had 14 approved claims with 0 fatalities in the food service industry.
Yeah.
The entire year.
So my magic words are prove the claim.
Yeah.
Prove it. Prove the harm.
I looked on their FAQ about COVID, because I was like, oh, when can I file a COVID claim? And so I looked, can COVID-19 ever be allowed as a work-related condition? And it says under certain circumstances, claims from healthcare providers and first responders involving COVID-19 may be allowed. And then it goes on to say, don't even bother filing a claim unless you're a medical worker or first responder. And then it says, when will a claim likely be denied? When the contraction of COVID-19 is incidental to the workplace or common to all employment, such as an office worker who contracts the condition from a fellow employee, a claim for exposure to and contraction of the disease will be denied. I mean, that alone right there says
it doesn't
they're not going to cover you in the food service industry. They know it. They know it's a lie.
Yeah, they know it's a lie and it doesn't apply. It's just that simple. But you see, the bureaucrats overextend administrative authority all the time. They're about to do it back in DC right now. They're planning to take the Environmental Protection Agency and turn it into this huge monster. Trump deregulated all that stuff that's garbage out of it. He did that. He eliminated thousands of regulations that just don't have any actual real legal authority. They weren't passed by Congress. They weren't passed by the Senate. They weren't signed by the president, but they have these powers so the state's doing the same thing. It's called the administrative state, administrative government. It has no authority, folks. Just stop getting so excited about it when they start telling you they have all this power. If you go read it like Michael's done here, you'll see that it doesn't even apply to you most of the time. It's a very narrow application that they've overextended to everybody else. So this is government taking that ignorance of the people, throwing stuff out there sloppily. Like you said, they didn't even have the right names on there, and getting people to jump and give them money. Mm-hmm. This is what the mob does. And they learned it from the best. Capone was really good at it, and they've extended that out so far. It's unreal. So we've got to eliminate these criminals from government. Yep. We've got to let them know who the people are and what that means. If they call you a person or an individual, deny that claim. Say, I'm one of the people. That's a totally different position. That people and persons and individuals are employees of the government. Look at the legal definitions. They play definition games with you all the time. So I'd suggest you take a good look at that. But I think, there's a way to do a proof of claim process. And we have coaches that work with people on this for way, way, way less than attorneys charge to set this up. And you do most of it. And you're coming in as like a third party intervener saying you're causing us a harm. You need to prove it or pay. You start billing them instead.
Yeah. Oh, we'd love to. That's the biggest challenge in this whole thing is trying to find an attorney will represent you.
You just tell the attorney, all I want you to do is do my filings.
Oh yeah.
Your own speaking. You can do what's called hybrid counsel. I've done it before. It can be done. People say you can't. Well, every time somebody tells me you can't, I at least ask the question and I say, let me look for myself. Oh yeah, like you just looked. Oh yeah, it doesn't apply. Yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
You have to direct the court accordingly. You can have an attorney and still speak. So I think that's how maybe you have to approach that. But
Yeah.
I'll talk to somebody today that does some work in this area and see what he thinks, because I think you guys, if you don't get the counterclaim going, it won't stop.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
that does stop it.
Yeah.
But you guys have won. You really have already won, because if you go to court, you're going to have that other conclusion to show they have no standing to be funding us for anything. They
Yeah.
dropped the case because they
Yep.
couldn't win.
Yeah.
That's powerful when you've done that. And you're beginning to see just a taste of it. You just need to figure out how to conclude the thing. And you're right. You've already pretty much already done it, but now you got to make it hurt a little bit. File a counterclaim and watch what happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, listen, I don't have any other questions. This is great information. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just really appreciate this opportunity. People need to know, you can just, I'm just a cook. I don't have any legal knowledge. I'm actually, pretty, technologically not really savvy. And, I had my first Zoom meeting 2 months ago. I couldn't stand to see the people I cared about getting absolutely abused and violated by the government anymore.
Right.
And I'm not anti-government anyway, but I'm demanding that they go back to their constitutional bounds and stop having the executive branch using all three branches of power, and stop deciding who is the winner in society and who's the loser. And
they're trying to go hog wild on that right now. And
yeah, I encourage everybody get involved and don't be afraid of the legal process. It's there to. It's almost like they set this kind of this bar of knowledge there, but it's really not insurmountable. You just got to start, and just like you guys do. That's why I think you guys are a great organization and what you've been doing. So
yeah, well, that's really what we believe. You guys, there are people, the skeptics are going to say about this interview, they're going to say, oh, well, they're just conspiracy theorists. And what they do is when they call you the name, they call you a white supremacist or a racist or a conspiracy theorist or a sexist or a transphobe. These words that you use, these are called magic words. And these words are powerful, because what they're meant to do is to stop the discussion and not look at the facts.
Yeah.
I always tell people, oh, you used a word, you just conceded.
Yeah.
Because you have no argument. You have no facts. You have no background. You have no knowledge. You haven't read the law. You're just a coward who throws rocks and runs.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus said, when they were going after Mary Magdalene, he who is without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
They're the sinners throwing stones at you, but they don't even have any standing to even be standing there throwing anything.
Oh, yeah.
And they have no argument. And those people walked away when he said that, because he challenged on whether you actually have standing to do anything. And they didn't. That's what we have to get used to doing. The magic words are prove it, prove the harm. You have no proof, and you'll go back into the law and you'll find this over and over, just like what you just found. You'll find the law supports that position. There's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah.
And if you just can focus on that issue, you'll find the answers.
Yeah.
So let's keep it simple, and you can do these things.
Absolutely.
Just like you guys did. And you're not quite done, but really you've done what you need to do. You've got them. You contractually put them where you want them, and they can fine you all day long, but the bill means nothing. In fact, I can show you how you can even accept the bill and hand it back to them and say, here, you go to your public account and settle it. We owe you nothing. And they can't deny that in the law.
Yeah.
So
nice.
It's fun stuff. We'll talk some more about that.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. It was really a pleasure talking to you. Do you want to give any contact information if people want to reach you? Maybe not a phone number, but an email or something, or maybe you don't need that.
Oh, no, I probably don't need that.
Okay, good.
Kind of gonna go back to my life of cooking, hopefully. But
exactly, get back to stay cooking.
I'm still gonna be involved, because we really just, everyone needs to be involved.
Yeah.
And stand up, because the government will do whatever we consent to.
What we consent to, exactly.
They can legally do whatever we consent to,
And well, we have the
power we give them
to use the Constitution. The purpose of the Constitution is the brakes on government. Doesn't give the government any power at all.
Yeah.
None. And if they write rules beyond the Constitution, it also says in the Constitution, those rules are not law.
Yeah.
That's how it works, guys. Hope you get this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying run around like chaos. I'm saying keep your servants where they belong and let them do their job, and just make sure we put the bounds on them. and we'll all live freer, and we won't have this chaos in society.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again. God bless you for your work, and I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.